International Seminar Climate Change Adaptation Strategies for Small Island Developing States, Lessons from Artificial Island Development in the Maldives, in person and online. My name is Miko Maekawa, Senior Research Fellow of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. I belong to Asia and Islam Program Group. First, I invite Itsu Adachi, Executive Director of Sasakawa Peace Foundation, for opening remarks.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking a time out of your busy schedule to join us at the seminar. The seminar title reads, Climate Change Adaptation Strategies for Small Island Developing States, Lessons from Artificial Island Development in the Maldives. Such a long title, yet this is the project that is currently under research, and this is going to be the opportunity for the announcement of the interim analysis result. First and foremost, I'd like to express my appreciation to you all for your participation in organizing this seminar to the Global Infrastructure Fund Research Foundation Japan, the Maldives National University, and HDC Maldives and Hosei University. Thank you very much for your cooperation to make this event materialized. And I'd like to express my appreciation to 5 experts from Maldives National University, led by Vice Chancellor Dr. Aishath Shehenaz Adams. Welcome to you all to Japan. Thank you for traveling all the way to Japan. Talking about Sasakawa Peace Foundation Asia Islam Group, we engaged in various initiatives and projects. This is a group that focuses on Asia as well as Middle East in pursuit of peace and stability of this region. And there are various projects and initiatives, including interaction of politicians as well as, though in the limited scale, the pilot projects that could lead to the proposal of the policies, as well as research activities, as in the case of Hulhumalé, a project that is going to be discussed this time. Asia is faced with various social issues. Although it is characterized by the remarkable economic growth, at the same time, the demography, drastic change of it, as well as migration of the people, together with the serious climate change and weather conditions, are the examples of the issues that major cities are faced with. Especially climate change is a common challenge for many of the Asian cities. To respond to such challenges, even in a small way, we hope to make contribution to the solution of them. Talking about Asia, in fact, this is a region that is prone to major natural disasters, including typhoon and flood, among others. Together with the earthquakes. And in fact, it is suggested that 40% of such natural disaster-related damages could be concentrated in Asia. And for those countries with those challenges, especially as they bear the brunt of the climate change, those critical situations could even deteriorate it. Besides the extraordinary weather conditions or natural disasters that would break out in a short period of time, at the same time, there are other chronic chronic issues such as a gradual rise of sea level, which also require solutions. And therefore, we have to say that the situation ahead of us could be even more challenging. And in the meantime, in November last year, the COP28 met in Dubai on the Climate Change Framework Convention. They once again confirmed the goal of limiting the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees. And then on the first day of the conference, they agreed on establishing the fund to respond to loss and damage. And also the climate resilience UAE framework was adopted. It has been pointed out that we are faced with the urgent need of adopting measures to respond and adapt to climate change, and yet that has been slow to progress. Under such circumstances, in the case of Maldives, they came up with the NAPA 2006, the National Adaptation Program, as well as MCCPF from 2014 to 2024 on the climate change framework. They have been actively formulating various adaptation measures and implementing them. And as you can find in those policy documents, they have been demonstrating the leadership on the climate front in the international negotiation. For instance, in the case of the establishment of the Loss and Damage Fund, they played an instrumental role in preparing the proposal at the committee that was in charge. As you may know, Maldives consists of atoll, and its average the height from the sea level is 1.5 meter. And across the country, they are faced with the medium to long-term sea level rise, and especially we are seeing increasing risk of flooding, including inland water flooding, as well as the high waves and the surge in the metropolitan district, that is Malé, and also to be engaged in the city or urban development while seeking for the harmony with the environment is extremely important to secure the conservation of the ecosystem that is a foundation of the major industry, that is fishery and tourism. In the seminar, we are going to discuss such pioneering project of Hulhumalé, the artificial island, and also we will hear about the views by those people that migrated to Hulhumalé from other local islands, and the result of the joint study is going to be announced. This is a project that was endorsed by the national government, but in principle, it was a development project led by the private sector. Therefore, when it comes to private sector and the business for property development, that will be also conducted in pursuit of profit. And for those people that would purchase a piece of land there, they are more privileged with higher income level. In addition to that, at the national government level, they also have to consider how they can face with the challenge or counter with the challenge of migration of the middle to low income people, and at the same time have to strike the right balance among different issues. And therefore, Hulhumalé was not the panacea solving all the issues. And therefore, at this seminar, we are going to discuss whether the project in Hulhumalé is sustainable, whether that could be a good success case study that could be emulated by other countries. What are the remaining issues, among others? Those are the topics that I'm looking forward to hearing discussion. Once again, I'd like to express my hearty appreciation to those that were instrumental in realizing this seminar. Thank you very much.
Mr. Adachi, thank you very much. Without much further ado, we'd like to go on to the keynote speech session by Dr. Aishath, Shehenaz Adam, Vice Chancellor, Central Administration of the Maldives National University on Climate Change Adaptation Strategy for the Maldives.
Executive Director, Sasakawa Peace Foundation, organizers of the conference, distinguished speakers, and participants of this international seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. I am truly delighted to be partaking in this significant seminar focused on climate change adaptation strategies for small island developing states, with a particular focus on insights from the Maldives. I extend my sincere gratitude to the organizers, the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, the Global Infrastructure Research Foundation, and Hosei University for their exceptional coordination of this international event. The warm hospitality extended to us is highly valued and deeply appreciated. Today, I'm deeply honored to address the critical issue of climate change adaptation strategy for the Maldives, a nation grappling with existential threats from rising sea levels and increasingly severe weather conditions. Distinguished participants, the Maldives, a stunning archipelago situated in the Indian Ocean, stands as one of the most vulnerable countries to the ravages of climate change. With an average elevation of just 1.5 meters above sea level, the Maldives faces the very real possibility of complete submersion if current trends persist. Such an outcome would devastate the Maldivian people and reverberate across the global community. Considering this pressing challenge, it is imperative that we take decisive action to adapt to the evolving climate and safeguard the lives and livelihoods of those in the Maldives. This necessitates a holistic approach that addresses both immediate threats and long-term resilience building strategies. Foremost among our priorities is the need to invest in resilient infrastructure and cutting-edge technology to mitigate the impacts of rising sea levels and extreme weather conditions. This includes fortifying coastal defenses, constructing seawalls, and implementing early warning systems to alert communities of impending natural disasters. By bolstering our infrastructure, we can minimize the potential for catastrophic damage and ensure the safety of our citizens. Furthermore, we must embrace sustainable development practices to reduce our carbon footprint and mitigate the drivers of climate change. This entails transition into renewable energy sources like solar and wind power, adopting energy efficient measures, and promoting sustainable land use and resource management. By curbing greenhouse gas emissions, we can slow the pace of climate change and create a window of opportunity for adaptation efforts. Preserving our natural ecosystems is also paramount in our adaptation strategy. Coral reefs, mangroves, and seagrass beds not only harbor invaluable biodiversity, but also serve as crucial buffers against the impacts of climate change. By safeguarding these ecosystems and restoring degraded habitats, we can bolster our resilience and protect the delicate balance of nature upon which our way of life depends. Distinguished participants, according to the climate risk country profile of the Maldives prepared by the World Bank Group in 2021, the natural ecosystems of the Maldives, particularly coral reefs, face risk from climate change. While adaptation and conservation efforts are crucial, their scope may be limited. Climate change poses a major threat to the traditional ways of life on the Maldives Islands, with the impacts likely to be felt most severely by the poorest, most marginalized, and remote communities. This report emphasizes the critical importance of the fisheries and agriculture sectors to the Maldives, given their role in both food security and livelihoods. Besides, we acknowledge that tackling climate change is a collaborative effort, necessitating global cooperation and solidarity. Therefore, the Maldivian government has prioritized addressing the impacts of climate change within the country. National adaptation policies, strategies, and plans have been implemented with ongoing research conducted in collaboration with international partners. For instance, the 2020 report on the update of nationally determined contribution of the Maldives, published by the Ministry of Environment, highlights climate enhancement adaptation efforts. These efforts encompass enhancing agriculture, food security, tourism and fisheries sectors, bolstering infrastructure resilience, addressing public health concerns, improving water security, implementing coastal protection measures, safeguarding coral reef biodiversity, enhancing early warning systems and systematic observation, and strengthening disaster risk reduction and resilience measures. The establishment of Hulhumalé, an artificial island located near the capital Malé with an average elevation of 2 meters above sea level, demonstrates pioneering adaptation to environmental challenges, particularly focusing on development and managing migration surges. In the recent Climate Change Adaptation Action Plan, designed to guide the tourism sector in adapting to climate change, showcase the government's and Maldivian people's commitment to mitigate climate change effects. While the Maldives take proactive steps to develop and implement adaptation strategies, we cannot confront this challenge alone. We call upon the international community to honor their commitments under the Paris Agreement and provide vital financial and technical support to vulnerable nations like the Maldives and collaborate on solutions for a sustainable and resilient future. Distinguished participants, at the Maldives National University, MNU, initiatives are underway to address these challenges. Plans are in progress to establish a College of Fisheries and Ocean Sciences, as well as a Faculty of Agriculture in the near future. Agriculture courses will commence at MNU in the upcoming semester, starting in August of this year. And additionally, a range of research projects are being conducted in collaboration with international partners covering topics such as the South Asian Nitrogen Hub Project, prevention of marine litter in the Lakshadweep Sea, disaster risk reduction, and climate change. These endeavors, including the development of a degree program in climate change, research workshops, student and staff mobility programs, summer schools, and webinars, highlight the holistic approach being taken to address the challenges posed by climate change. The Maldives National University envisions playing a pivotal role in climate change mitigation efforts. This involves not only conducting research initiatives and disseminating information, but also forging local and international collaborations, actively engaging with communities, serving as key educators, advocating for sustainable curricular changes, and providing advisory roles in policy development. This commitment, along with the achievement of sustainable development goals, MNU strives to make a positive impact on the global effort to combat climate change. In conclusion, the climate change adaptation strategy for the Maldives and other small island states necessitates bold, ambitious, and collaborative efforts. It calls for investment in resilient infrastructure, adoption of sustainable development practices, preservation of natural ecosystems, and cooperation with the global community to confront this existential threat. This international seminar marks a significant step towards global collaboration. By taking decisive action now, we can ensure a brighter and more sustainable future for the Maldives and future generations. I extend my best wishes to all participants for a fruitful seminar. I wish all the participants a rewarding seminar, hoping it will foster discussions on the merits and challenges of climate change adaptation strategies for Maldives and other small island nations. Let us collectively work towards a future where the Maldives and nations facing similar challenges can thrive despite the adversities posed by climate change. As Sasakawa has said, the answers we seek will never be found by you or me. They can only be found by us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a very comprehensive the keynote speech, Dr. Aisha Shehenaz Adam. Now we have the presentation on Hulhumalé by Mr. Ahmed Aslam, Director Strategic Management, Housing Development Corporation Limited, or HDC, and Ms. Aishath Laila, General Manager, Research and Development, Strategic Management of HDC.
よろしくお願いいたします。
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all the participants.
Today, actually, we are talking about an artificial island, which is placed in Maldives. So before going to the finding, it's our role to introduce the artificial island or the Hulhumalé. So I will explain where the Hulhumalé is located, what is the role of the Hulhumalé, and then HDC. So we are from HDC. HDC is the main developer of Hulhumalé. We are the builder, and we also regulate the place. In order to formulate this sustainable manner, we have recently introduced our formulated research department as well, so that the service can be delivered by data-driven community as well. So we are from the research section as well. So Hulhumalé is the very first city emerged as a smart city. So we have smart functions as well. We are introducing those things in order to make a sustainable city. In the presentation, these are the things we will introduce. Why actually Hulhumalé was constructed, about Hulhumalé, what happened after the formulation of after creation Hulhumalé. The next step is why a phase 2 came, but now phase 3 is almost developing, and then what are our future plans we will introduce. This is a picture of Malé, which is the capital city. Actually, the capital city, there are more than 200,000 people living in capital city itself. It is almost 40% of our population. So as you can see from the picture itself, it's very crowded. And there are other issues as well apart from the crowdness. Hence, the government came up with a decision that definitely we need to bring a solution for this. Hence, Hulhumalé was created. But before Hulhumalé was created or developed, an environmental impact assessment study was carried out before formulating it. You can see the picture of Hulhumalé, the current situation. Currently, this is how Hulhumalé is formulated. Hulhumalé is the largest and reclaimed island located near Malé, which is the capital city of our country. One and only developed urban city in the country. Hulhumalé is being developed into a 3 phase actually. And almost in the first phase, almost 80% of the Hulhumalé has been completed. We are expecting to complete the phase 1 by the end of next year. Where is Hulhumalé located? So you can see this is our country map. And the first spot which I have highlighted is the capital city. You can see from the left side, the chart. You can see where the Hulhumalé is, and where there is an interconnectivity bridge between Malé and Hulhumalé, which is very much connectivity is high as well because of the bridge. Before Hulhumalé was formulated, this is how the lagoon looks like. The one which is shown as the green colored one, that is our international airport at this time. The reclamation was happened, so before that, the lagoon part you can see over here, that was where Hulhumalé is located. Integration of Hulhumalé project started in 1997 in order to mitigate the congestion of the population in capital city. Reclamation of phase 1, so the sand was dug and then the land was created at that time. Once the everything was done, this is how phase 1 is look like. This is All the roads has been created before people has been migrated. So there was a master plan as well developed before. The life cycle of Hulhumalé project, you can see how it has been formulated from 1997 till 2018. You can see from a lagoon, then the sand bed was there, and then afterwards the population has moved, and then how it is being created out. In total, how many hectares are there? We can see that in Hulhumalé currently there is 407 hectares total as of now. In phase 1, there is 191 hectares, and in phase 2, there is 216 hectares. How the milestones are, as you know, the whole picture starts from 1997. And then due to the formulation of Hulhumalé, there was HTC was formulated in 2001, and afterwards in 2004, that was the first one who has been settled in 2004, March, and then in 2005, again before it was HTC, it was created as an Hulhumalé development unit. However, because we need to cater more people, it was a change to Hulhumalé Development Corporation. And then afterwards, in 2015, phase 2 was developed, and in 2023, currently, phase 3 is under construction. In the case of Hulhumalé, how livable it is, we have recently conducted a livability index survey as well. And in the livability index survey, we have got a score of 0.69. If in the scale of 0 to 1, the score should be. So it's 0.69, which is on a high scale, so meaning that it is a livable city as well. People consider it as a livable city, and there are certain. So in order to create the livable city, HTC has come up with 3 goals. One is it should be a livable city. It should be a workable city as well. It should be a play. It should be available. So these are the 3 functions which we focus when we are developing. As well as when we are developing, we are thinking of how the interconnectivity can be created, such as it should be easily access to airport, should be easily access to the other islands as well as the capital. And in order to keep since Hulhumalé was created in order to mitigate the congestion in Malé, hence we have an open space index as well. The when we are developing, we are keeping the open space index in such a way that it should be below certain threshold. As well as we are making the city a clean or less air polluted one. When we are talking about people living in Hulhumalé, what happened, what is our population, it is important to know. We can see from our census 2022, we can see there are almost 65,000 people are currently living in Hulhumalé. However, our projection, we are expecting to bring the country or to the Hulhumalé around 326,000 people when the project ends. And this is how phase 1, phase 2, how the population we are forecasting to bring. Now I'll talk about phase 2, why phase 2 happens again. In phase 2, initiation was started in 2015. Currently, 5% of the place has been developed, and we are estimating to complete the project by 2035. The major projects happen is mass social housing projects. Like social housing, we have already created around 7,000 units are created in there, as well as some state-owned enterprise staff housing has been also formulated in phase 2. Since currently the Hulhumalé is the most demanding land in the country, again another plan has come, that is a formulation of phase 3 Hulhumalé. So phase 3, we have very recently started to develop phase 3, and it's around 63 hectares we are planning to. So I will hand over to my colleague Aslam for the rest of the part.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Laila, for giving the very summarized brief about HDC as well as Hulhumalé phase 1 and 2 and 3 development. So it is interesting to see what is going to be the next area. So since we are the researchers as well as to finding what are the solutions in Maldives, it's better to see what is the whole area development. So I will be looking into the areas. So here we call Greater Malé region, where you can see phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 in Hulhumalé in totally, and we have the Velana International Airport in Malé, and it is already connected in 2018. With this connection, we found that the population migration has been increased tremendously, and also the people found that it is a livable area. Before, we can consider people coming to there for sleeping only, but for the work every day they go to Malé back. So right now we are developing more office spaces, more socialized areas. So because of that, it becomes more livable. So again, I want to highlight the current developments like a Tilamale bridge, which is on the construction stage almost. And then with the bridge, additional connection will be bringing into the Greater Malé region. So it will be connecting the Vilimale. Vilimale is another, we call it word of Malé, where there are less population, which is considered is very climate friendly, where there are very less vehicles, and mostly people are walking or use the electric vehicle there. And we are extending our projects even under Hulhumalé Housing Development Corporation. We own the Gulifalo. There was a merger of Greater Malé Industrial Zone with the HDC in 2019 with the previous government. So we expand our scope, not only Hulhumalé, but Greater Malé region. So that includes Gulifalo, Tilafushi, and now we call Girawar Falo. So the last government has been already put the plan and already allocated the land from Gulifalo and Tilafushi and Girawar Falo. So this will be connected through a bridge, so the connectivity will be there in this region. So because of that, as Laila has mentioned, that population will be tremendously increasing in the coming years. And also we will be finding a solution for the people who are looking for the affordable or mid-range, as even including luxury housing. So at the same time, I want to highlight Tilafushi, where we are planning to develop a port city there, international port. We are actually planning to move from Malé to Tilafushi, and it will be an international port. Going beyond that, I will be also discussing some of the mega projects within that. This year, last year, 2023, at the end of the last year, the new administration has initiated the new project called Rasmale. I think you would have heard of it, which is going to be 3 times or triple larger than the Hulhumalé, existing Hulhumalé, which is going to be like 1,150 hectares of the size. So it will be, again, in order to bring in more peoples there and making the housing more affordable and also making the people living there. So on the right-hand side, you can see the Gulifalo, as already I have mentioned. We have recently announced our new master plan. For that, mainly we are going to give land. You can see in phase 2, we are developing a lot of flats up to 25 stories. which we found there are a lot of issues, including social issues, like criminal activities, or there is no sufficient space for the people to live. So we found that we need more the land plots for the people. So the Gulifalo will be considered as more towards, or it will be more low rise, but like land plots, like 2 to 3 or 4 story buildings will be coming up as well. So then we have the Tilafushi, as I have mentioned, which is more towards or more likely to be an industrial zone. Right now, we are doing a lot of industrial activity there. With the port facility, it will be increasing the whole area industrial. A little bit different from the normal housing. We also, HTC, we have under phase 2, we have the tourism island, which is isolated from the phase 2, which we considered it will be bringing additional facilities to the Greater Malé region, where currently we have only one hotel in the airport, where this will be a connecting hotel close to Malé, or Hulhumalé. So there will be already the infrastructure like a road and then bridge is constructed. We are opening up for the tourist hotels in those areas. So this will be considered as like any other resort, but it will be an integrated resort. So that will be make a little bit different on the place. Of course, this is the picture of the Ras Malé inauguration by President and our MD, Mr. Ibrahim Fazl Rashid. And you can see that where it is located is a little bit far, right? A little bit far from Hulhumalé. So main concerns are raised also with the people, for example, like transportations and the facility. As I have mentioned that this will be a triple, triple or 3 times larger than Hulhumalé. So it's also planned to give land plots, like industrial, commercial, as well as tourism activities. It will be opened up. At the moment, reclamation has been started. So the reclamation, as I have, Laila has mentioned, before reclamation, the EIA or environmental sustainable studies are done. However, I will be not neglecting the impact of the environment because of the reclamation. Yes, we can see some of the impacts. However, it's also important providing housing is one of the necessity for the people. So this, again, there are some plans how this is like 10 kilometers away from Malé, this Hulhumalé. So how the transportation will be, it will be taken like 15 to 20 minutes by speedboat. So there are some plans putting ahead, maybe very ambitious, like a underwater channel, which has been already announced by our president. This is something doable in the future, of course, with a lot of investments are required in this area. So Gulifalo, as I have mentioned just now, is already built, reclamation is completed. You can see a lagoon surrounded by, but lagoon has been, majority has been reclaimed. Very small area is there left for the jetties and everything, but the rest of it is reclaimed already. So we are in the process of allocating the land plots. And also Urban Isle, which I have just mentioned about the tourist island, where we are expecting a lot of high-rise hotels and also guest houses to be developed in this area. So so this Tilafushi, again, I have mentioned this is going to be a industrial hub where we are going to build a lot of industrial warehouses, industrial like chemical warehouses, and we are having a plan to move all the chemical, which is chemical warehousing or chemical storage into Tilafushi in that. So that's what about the Hulhumalé future plans. I hope this will be giving inspirations as well as some of the future plans for you in order to do more research. Of course, we are talking about, Laila has mentioned 326,000 is only for Hulhumalé phase 1, 2, 3. But what about the development of Gulifalo as well as Giravarfalo and Furidigarfalo? We are expecting more population or more people to be migrate on this area. Because of that, of course, there are a lot of concerns we have to keep in our mind in order to see what are the social environmental and also governance perspective. So I think we need to do a lot of research on this area, and we are looking forward developing this area. Thank you very much once again, Jeev, as well as SPF, giving this opportunity for us to demonstrate here. And thank you very much for your hospitality as well as staying us. Thank you very much again.
ありがとうございました。大変興味深い。
Thank you very much for the very interesting presentation. We have about 5 minutes left, so we'd like to entertain questions and comments, if any, addressed to these two speakers from the HDC. Are there any questions?
ちなみに、今回の質問はですね、オンライン参加を
We have online participants as well, and when they applied, some of the online participants have already sent us their questions, which we greatly appreciate, and we'd like to take these questions during the panel discussion session.
では、後ろの男性の方お願いします。
So the gentleman in back.
I'm working here at Ocean Policy Research Institute. Actually, it's really curious here in my mind why it's called artificial island. Because if we are thinking Maldives is totally, in your explanation, it's 1 meter or 2 meters above. So how this is claimed to an artificial island?
Yeah, as you have seen from Laila's presentation, how the island is formed. If you go back to the presentation, we can see it was a lagoon. Okay, in Maldives, in natural, we have 1,192 natural islands where we code there are trees and everything is already built. But in Maldives, the nature is there are a lot of sandbanks and there are a lot of areas, shallow lagoon area, like Hulhumalé, that was like 1 meter below the sea when we started reclamation. So we reclaimed it, and then due to one of the environmental factor was in most of the islands is the above 1 meter sea level, or 1 meter above the sea level. However, when we reclaimed Hulhumalé, we have put 1.5 or 2 meter above the sea level. So artificial is coming because this was not a natural island. As I mentioned, 1,192 is a natural islands, but this is like a built by reclaiming those areas. It's not 100%, yes, of course, created, like a Fushidigar Falo. It's a lagoon where there is 2 meters down. Again, in Fushidigar Falo or the Rasmale, we are expecting 3 meter or 4 meter above the sea level. Some areas, there's a 4 meter, others, there are 3 meters above the sea level. But as I have mentioned, most of the average height is 1 meter above the sea level. So because of the sea level rises, as well as because of the storm, or like a tidal impact, some islands it is impacting heavily. And again, because of the rainfall as well, it has been flooded in some extent. Even recently, we are facing that issue in Malé as well. So artificial island is because these are not a natural island.
So my another question is actually for curiosity. So is it environmentally viable? Because when you are actually preparing something, it's against to environment, because so space is underwater and other things. So how do you ensure it actually?
Yeah, that's again at the concern area. Yes, if you go like how we are reclaiming that island, in Maldives, naturally when it is formed, we have called outer reef. Okay, so even when we reclaim Hulhumalé, we don't reclaim up to the outer reef. We are reclaiming inner level. So there is a wave breaker, or there is a space for these species to be lived most of the time. So from of course, I have realized, or we have been noticing some of the water pollution is happening, underwater pollution is happening because of the reclamation, the sand. And the methodology earlier we used is taking the sand from the lagoon and then putting the sand on that. But recently what we are doing is we are bringing the sand from other areas and then refilling it. It's not taking in the same area. So that makes a little bit different. Of course, we have to accept the fact reclamation. There are impacts. For example, not only that area, but surrounding. For example, I can say the visibility of the underwater, because Maldives is famous for diving, especially in Malay region area. So those divers, they are saying the visibility is affected, or there are some pollution in the area. But other than that, again, we are putting a lot of efforts to coral grow. Again, there are success stories about the coral. We have been able to grow in that area as well. So I believe, yes, it is environmentally sustainable because, again, we are putting the protection walls like sandbanks and quarry walls in order to protection from the waves as well.
Yes, thank you so much. I hope it would be a model for other smaller and developing countries to build up this activity.
Thank you very much.
ありがとうございます。環境配慮については気になるところでもあるかと思います。
Yes, thank you very much. The environmental consideration can be a concern, so we hope that we'd like to discuss this during the panel discussion session. Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation by two representatives from the HDC. Now, we move on to the next presentation. Dr. Mikiyasu Nakayama, Managing Director of Global Infrastructure Fund Research Foundation Japan, and Ms. Akiko Sakamoto, Secretary General, Global Infrastructure Fund Research Foundation, on factors affecting Hulhumalé residents' satisfaction.
本日は大変ありがとう。
Thank you very much indeed. We greatly appreciate this opportunity. My name is Akiko Sakamoto from the AGIF. So we give this presentation entitled Factors Affecting Hulhumalé Residents' Satisfaction. This is a result of a survey we conducted. We give this presentation together with my colleague, Dr. Nakayama. This is the outline of this study cooperated by the HDC. In August 2022, we conducted a survey online, and 252 Hulhumalé residents responded. And the aim of the survey was to find out the residents of Hulhumalé the satisfaction after moving there. And the questionnaire consists of 11 questions about their attributes and 32 questions about various aspects of their lives after moving to Hulhumalé. And as to 32 questions, we use the 5-point Likert scale. 5 points for strongly agree, and all the way down to 1 point for strongly disagree. And these are the attributes of the respondents: age, gender, education level, and the year of Hulhumalé, and year of migration, Hulhumalé, pre-migration settlement, occupation before migration and after migration, and annual income before and after migration, and who decided to move to Hulhumalé, and whether they had the intention to return to the previous settlement. And there are many questions, so I try to summarize. The first, as to the satisfaction before and after the migration, and opportunities for good jobs, and the cost of living, and the opportunities of entertainment, including dining, shopping, medical access to medical care, which will be explained in more detail, and the healthcare or the health promoting facilities or availability of such facilities were also asked. And now housing, the cost of the house acquisition and the opportunity to live in a clean new home, and education, which will be elaborated later on, and the connection with other people, whether they were able to maintain the connection with the people from the previous settlement, and good living environment. And these are very interesting sections. So the Hulhumalé should be resilient to disasters and safe against rising sea levels, and also the territorial integrity and the public safety or security, and also the infrastructure, utilities and transport, and also the administrative services. And about the methodology that we adopted, we first conducted the ordinary statistical analysis in order to see whether they were more satisfied after migration. And depending on the attributes, we grouped respondents into two groups and compared for statistical differences. And we use the permutation feature importance and structural equation modeling. These are innovative methodologies, which Dr. Nakayama will explain in more detail later. And these are the attributes of the respondents. Age, 70% of the respondents were under 40, and gender, the male and the females were about 50-50, and about education, more than half were first degree and above. That means that they are quite highly educated. And the year of migration, the migration increased rapidly after 2021. That was the beginning of the migration on phase 2 area, as was presented previously. And 76% of the respondents were from Malay. And about occupation, many were professionals, or the professionals increased amongst the migrants. And quite many reported that they increased annual income after migration, and 60% of the respondents answered that the family decided to migrate. And intention to settle in Hulhumalé, yes, 70% answered yes, they wanted to remain in Hulhumalé. About the satisfaction level, about life, as you can see on the right-hand side, after migration, generally speaking, satisfaction level grew. And the highly appreciated aspects and the least appreciated aspects are identified here. The people liked utility infrastructure, including electricity and water supply, and the beautiful and the rich natural surroundings are highly rated. And sports facilities and parks be useful for maintaining health and transportation, and no water or air pollution. These were highly appreciated. But on the other hand, the rent and housing acquisition cost of living, and security or safeguarded by the police. For these items, the people gave the relatively low grades. And then, who are more satisfied after migration? If you look at the people who have the high intention to settle in Hulhumalé, or the high personal income before and after migration, or the people migrated from Malay, these people were relatively more satisfied. But on the other hand, if they answered they wanted to return to their previous their settlement, or if they were from places other than Malay, or if they were older, the age group, then they were less satisfied with the life in Hulhumalé. And the advantages, who are the people who haven't enjoyed the benefits of the Hulhumalé? Well, the elderly people and the female, these people didn't enjoy high-paying good jobs, and the migrants from Malay, they didn't give the good marks to good education, and the elderly people and the low people with low annual personal income, they are not satisfied with medical care or healthy conditions. And about sustainability, whether they believe that the sustainability increased or not. For these the three questions, the values are more or less in the middle. So perhaps many people are not strongly concerned about these items. About the environment, people highly evaluated the fact that the air and the water is clean, and the living environment is beautiful with rich natural surroundings, particularly women and people from Mali and high-income groups and the people with high intention to settle in Hulhumalé. They evaluated highly these environmental aspects. So by attracting these the people with these attributes, it's important to improve and maintain the beautiful environment.
The infrastructure, that was also given high scores, especially utility infrastructure was especially highly valued by the high income people. And transportation, they tended to be valued highly by the younger group. On the other hand, there were some common elements that were dissatisfied across the groups, across the people of different attributes. That is, rental house acquisition cost, cost of living, and security. Those are three areas where people found dissatisfied. According to attributes, we split the respondents into two to see whether there was any significant difference or not. First, the people from Malay, as opposed to areas other than Malay, there were significant differences statistically in many of the items. In the case of the people that moved from places other than Malay to Hulhumalé, in most cases they experienced the change in their living. Is in most cases in a good way. The variety of the employment as well as educational opportunities are given that must have contributed. On the other hand, the expense of living is considered as an obstacle for the people to move here. The variety of entertainment options available that was rated more highly by residents that came outside of Malay. Residents from Malay gave higher rating to clean new homes as well as the absence of air and water pollution. Now, by age, those are the items where there were the statistical significant difference. This is about the gender as well as education level. Here again, there were some items that we found out some statistical difference. The intention of returning to previous residence. Here again, for various items, we saw some statistical difference depending on the groups. Now, looking at the result, compared to younger people, older people tend to give higher rating to good jobs, links of people, administration services, and the female rate good jobs lower than male. On the other hand, the good environment is given higher scores by female. Those people who intend to settle in Hulhumalé seems to be more satisfied with the life in Hulhumalé. On the other hand, those people with no intention of settling here, the medical care, environment, those qualities tended to be given lower scores by people without the intention of settling in Hulhumalé. Now, I'd like to hand over the microphone to Ms. Dr. Nakayama. First, we were interested in knowing what are the major factors that affected the level of satisfaction by the people that migrated to Hulhumalé. Thus, we adopted two methodologies here. One is to build a model by AI and find the factors that are considered important in that model. The other methodology is called the structural equation modeling. Details of these methodologies are explained in detail in an academic article that has been submitted for publication. So once it is published, I then hope that you would refer to that, and therefore I will not touch on those in this presentation. This is a schematic diagram of the model by AI from the responses to the questionnaire. A model is created with resident satisfaction as the objective variable and other items as explanatory variables. When this model is trained by the responses to the questionnaire, it becomes possible to derive the objective variable almost without error or failure from the explanatory variables. Sakamoto has already explained about the PFI, the method that was adopted. Initially, we used that method called PFI. That came up with a clear and the same conclusion as PFI. Therefore, I'd like to share with you the result that was obtained with this. This is a graph that shows the model that was trained to represent important explanatory variables. X11, the most important. X1, the next important explanatory variable. Then there are X7, X16, X26, X9. They are also considered as important explanatory variables. And those variables are as follows. The residents in Hulhumalé consider the good living environment as various utilities facilities available in Hulhumalé considered as important factors by the residents. Two objective variables, important explanatory variables, are listed here. Therefore, which item was considered as important or less important has nothing to do with this. For instance, X26, as Dr. Sakamoto explained, this was not given high score. But for the people, it appears to be the major factor that influences the level of satisfaction by the residents. And the structural equation modeling, the variable called latent variables can be assumed between explanatory and objective variables. The latent variable is an abstraction of several explanatory variables. In the structural equation modeling constructed from the responses to the questionnaire, the latent variables related to the good living environment and facilities in Hulhumalé are important factors that influence the objective variable. AI model and SEM results suggest that both a pleasant living environment and good facilities have a significant impact on life satisfaction in Hulhumalé. In addition, satisfaction also seems to be influenced by such factors as security and social amenities. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. It is the time to move on to the next presentation.
はい、じゃあ短い質問をお願い。
Or we may entertain a short question. Please use the microphone. What about food? And that's a part of the life. So food. There was no food shortage. In fact, food is abundantly supplied, and therefore, does it come from mainland India, where it is imported? Is something that I'd like to ask people from HDC to respond. So we'd like to take up this question during the panel discussion as well. Thank you.
4名からの
The next presentation is given by four people, Dr. Nakayama and Ms. Sakamoto. Thank you very much. Ms. Sakamoto will remain, and also Dr. Rahima Abdul Rahim of Maldives National University, and Mr. Adam Khalid, also from the Maldives National University, and I also join. This is about preliminary findings on motivations on inter-island migration. Well, we use a little bit the longer time, taking until 3:40.
では坂本さんお願いいたします。
So, Ms. Sakamoto, you go first.
はい、では引き続き
Thank you very much. Let me continue now this presentation. Let me first mention that some of the contents of this presentation are unpublished, so please do not quote this presentation.
調査の背景についてご説明させていただきます。モルディブのフルマーレにですね、移住している人たちというのはですね、
Well, the migration to the island of Hulhumalé is unique in that it is voluntary. As Dr. Nakayama and I presented, we had the survey of Hulhumalé residents in 2022. And the survey found differences in life satisfaction and other factors between those who moved to Hulhumalé from Malé and those who from the other atolls. As I said, the people, particularly people from outside of the Malé, showed that their satisfaction with their life after migration a little bit went down. So in order to promote, of course, promotion of the migration is a major issue for the Maldivian government. So people who haven't migrated to Hulhumalé, who live in areas outside of Greater Malé, would give us good insight into how we can improve or how what the gap between the satisfaction of people who live in Hulhumalé and also the dissatisfaction with them, and also the satisfaction and expectations of the people before migration. And this is the methodology. Together with the Maldives National University, we conducted this survey. The 4 atolls where Maldives National University campuses are located were chosen. The northernmost one is Kudufushi, which is rather difficult to pronounce for us, and another atoll, a rather small one, Gan, and Adu, and in the southern area, and Tinadu. We have chosen these 4 atolls. And the number of samples in each region was allocated according to the population, and the number of respondents were 398 in total. And the questionnaire itself, the questionnaire is similar to the one used for the survey conducted in 2022 in Hulhumalé in terms of the respondents' attributes and attitudes toward migration and expectations on Hulhumalé. And there is the typographical error. The questionnaire implemented between November 2023 and January 2024, and the Maldives National University enumerators conducted survey in person. And these are highly rated the aspects, wide choice of dining and shopping, that is opportunities of entertainment. People rated highly these aspects, and availability of sports facilities and parks. Many people liked this aspect in Hulhumalé. And on the other hand, these are low-rated aspects. First, the cost of living, and the cost of rent or cost of housing acquisition. So this showed that same tendency with the evaluation that people living in Hulhumalé presented.
はい、では今坂本さんに高く評価されたものとそうでも
We have just heard about those that are rated highly as opposed to those given lower scores. And now I'd like to share with you the results of those in between. And this was actually in line with what we expected. That's about the access to education, especially high-quality education. Was rated highly. And that's about the primary education as well as higher education. And this is going to be discussed by Dr. Lahim later on, more in depth. Then the medical care, the access to medical care, especially the advanced medical care that requires surgery or the cancer treatment, for instance, they were given higher scores. We thought this could be even higher, but it was 3.9. That was as an average. Next. Another item that was given higher score, the good neighborhood relations, and also the effort to preserve local and traditional culture. And those seem to reflect expectation by the residents here. As to disasters and climate change, those were not rated highly. You have seen the same item that's about the resilience to natural disasters, the safe against sea level rise due to climate change. It was not given high weight in terms of expectation by the migrants here. On the other hand, whether people observe the impact of climate change in their daily life, regarding the impact of climate change onto the environment, for instance, the inclusion of salt into the drinking water and the surge of the tide in Hitadu and Kurudufu. They are located south and north, and then there were differences in terms of the groundwater contamination with salt. 26.1% in Hitadu, and for the high surge in compared to Kurudufu, the Hitadu seems to be more aware of this phenomena with 30%, and especially what is called the king tide among storm surge and the flood in coastal area. And this was again that felt by 30% or nearly 30% of the people in Hitadu, but less in Kurudufu and beach and coastal erosion. Again, that this was recognized more commonly in Hitadu compared to Kurudufu. Then the question was, what kind of measures could be taken, and those are the options offered to them. And asking government to adopt appropriate measures that was given as a major the solution by 30% of the people. Then the hardware-related solutions such as seawalls, reclamation, or they elevate the level of the house that they live, and 10.3%. That's either within the island or within the country, as well as the migration into overseas. And then 10.3% of the people thought of migration either within the country, among different islands, or to overseas. And that's as a conclusion, as Dr. Sakamoto mentioned earlier, expectation toward Hulhumalé, given good facilities there, including entertainment and sports facilities, parks, among others. It seems to attract high expectations. At the same time, that is also reflected in the high living expenses, including rent and housing. That was clearly illustrated in the result of the survey by the people, and also the quality of primary and higher education. And that's another area that was given the higher rating, reflecting expectation. And there are 4 NMU campuses in different islands. And there, the nursing, as well as accounting, and only a few disciplines are offered, and therefore the students have no other way but to come to either Malay or to go to overseas universities if they are interested in other disciplines. And as to the natural disaster, whether they see any changes through the observation by daily life, some said yes. At the same time, it has not developed to a major driver to motivate them to move or relocate. Lastly, I'd like to share with you, or rather, I showed you the comparison between 2 areas, and the Maldives is located from south to north, and the characteristics and cultures are quite different among different islands, and those are the areas that we'd like to further elucidate by the future studies. Now I'd like to hand over the microphone to Dr. Lahim.
Good afternoon. My task is to explain from a point of view, the reasons, from a health point of view, the reasons why there is migration to Hulhumalé, which is an artificial island. So this is the satellite view of Kurudufushi, one of the islands, and the other one is Hulhumalé. Kurudufushi is one of the islands where the survey was carried out. And the one on my left is a local island. So the local islands look like that. The houses are smaller. There is neighborly relationships, and there is community engagement. There are areas for small children to play around. And people are migrating from this life to Hulhumalé, to what is, to the one which is on my right side. So according to HDC as well, now 40% of the population is in Malé, and according to their estimation, there will be about more than 300,000 people living in Hulhumalé as well. So from a health perspective, the concept of healthy city will not be there for a population of that much in Hulhumalé. So if we look at the housing market study done in 2018, the percentage of people who moved from an island to Greater Malé is 57%. So these people are living in islands earlier, and so 50% of them have moved to Malé or Greater Malé. And the percentage of people who moved from an island to Malé in 2020 was 61.6%. The graph on my right is from a study done, housing market study done in 2021. So it has increased in 2021. And this graph is from a housing market study done in 2018. We asked why people are moving to Greater Malé, and the reasons for moving to Greater Malé include education, jobs, and medical care. These are what people have stated, that these are the reasons why they have moved to Greater Malé, which includes Malé, Hulhumalé, and Vilimale. And most preferred place to live was chosen as Malé, and second was Hulhumalé. So people really want to, these are the people who are living in Greater Malé, but they want to live in Malé and Hulhumalé. So we also asked whether they prefer to move to an island if health, education, and other services are available. And 56% said yes, they want to move to an island if these services are available. We asked the same question in 2020, their preference to live in another area other than Hulhumalé. And 51 said no, only 29.3% said they want to live in another area. So most of the people want to live in Hulhumalé. So these are the people living in Hulhumalé. We also asked the question, satisfaction with the current housing condition. Most people believe that they are not satisfied with the current conditions of living in Greater Malé. So this includes not only Hulhumalé, this is for Malé as well. And we asked reasons for dissatisfaction with the living conditions. And most people said the living is too expensive. and others said repairing not affordable. And this is the current study conducted by SPF and GIF. 71.9% of the people surveyed agreed that the larger number of hospitals make it easier for people to access medical care when they fall ill. This data was collected from Hitadu, Kuludufushi, Thinadu, and Lamugang. And 68% of the people surveyed agreed high level of medical care is available in Hulhumalé. So a lot of people believe that medical care is better in Hulhumalé compared to the islands, and that's the reason they move. And from a health perspective, we checked whether this is true. This is the STEP survey conducted, non-communicable disease survey conducted from 2020 to 2021. If you can see at the bottom, these are the atolls from the Maldives. And you can see Malé. This is the prevalence of high fasting blood sugar. If you check Malé, that is Greater Malé. Malé is for Malé, Hulhumalé, and Vilimale. You can see that the percentage of people with high fasting blood sugar is lower in this region. That means they have more access to healthcare in Greater Malé. Better diagnostic services and all those things. With even all those overcrowding, they are in better health. This is prevalence of high BP, but this is on the borderline. Even if you check Malé, it is quite low compared to other atolls. So the accessibility of health services are better in the Malé region. And this is the prevalence of high cholesterol. Even in this, if you check the results for Malé, it's only 7.8%. So the prevalence of cholesterol is also lower. So there is better facilities, better access to health education, health facilities, diagnostic services still in Greater Malé. So in conclusion, living in Greater Malé provides more access to healthcare compared with other atolls, thereby reducing NCDs and other diseases. But we need to decentralize and create a healthy city concept in the islands and in Greater Malé for better health outcomes and to prevent overcrowding in Greater Malé. Thank you.
ありがとうございます。ではカリート先生お願いいたします。
Hello. Hello. In my presentation, I will focus mainly on education. Here's a map of Maldives. In Maldives, the islands are scattered. Some islands are quite far from Malé, the capital. So that means reaching Malé is difficult. For example, if you want to go to Sinu, one of the southernmost end of Maldives, we have to take a plane and take around 1 hour by plane. And also from Malé to Kuludufushi is also around 1 hour. In the days we don't have aeroplanes, we have to travel by sea. So that will be around, say, from Malé to one end of the island will take around 7 to 8 days or even more. So traveling is difficult. So because of the diversity, because of the spread, we believe that there are differences in thinking from island to island. Even the dialect is different. For example, for a person in Malé, he will not understand the dialect spoken by people from Gafdal or Sinu. So our education system is divided into 1, 2, 3, 5 categories. We have pre-primary, then we have primary, which goes from 1 to 7. Then we have lower secondary, goes from 8 to 10. Then we have higher secondary from 11 to 12, and then we have tertiary. Now, after completing grade 10, students, they will sit an exam. This exam is brought by University of Cambridge in UK. And also, when they finish grade 12, they will sit another exam called advanced level. That is also brought by the University of Cambridge. Now, schooling is compulsory until grade 10. Now, in our education system, students, they get divided into streams when they get into grade 9. The streams are science, commerce, and art stream. Now, for a government, because of the spread and because of the small population, it's very difficult to have a school with all the facilities in every school. So that means in some schools, even though they offer the science stream, they don't have well-equipped labs and also the resources to teach science. So that means if the students prefer to take a science stream, they have to move to a bigger island or come to Malé. And most students, they prefer coming to Malé. So this is also one possible reason for migration to Hulhumalé and the Malé region. Here are some of the statistics taken. Now you'll see that in Malé region, the number of students they enrolled in schools is quite high compared to all the other small islands or small atolls, we call it. The reason is people, they think schooling is better, and also we have better facilities in the Malé region. As I've said earlier, we cannot have a school with all the facilities in all the islands. The population in some islands are also quite small. I'll give an example. So in one particular island, we have got about 2 families. So they have to take a boat to about 10 minutes ride to a different island to go to school. And then when they finish school, they return to the island. But still, the people in the island, they refuse to move to a bigger island. Here are some statistics of students taking secondary school exams. It's taken from the yearbook 2020. You will notice that the large number of students taking exam in Malé region is quite high compared to all the other small atolls or small regions. One possible reason is people, they think the schools are better and government, they provide more funding to Malé region. And not all the subjects are offered in island schools. Population thinks the better teachers in schools than in the Malé region. Now, we have done a study, the climate change, and here are some of the amazing, interesting facts. Now, for example, Hitadu and Kurdufuri, there is a big variation, increase in temperature. So Kurdufuri people, they don't believe in it. Shortage of water also a problem. Now, I'll come to that a little bit later. Flood also the same thing. Strong winds, loss of biodiversity. Now, I would say the difference, now for example, these differences are because of the way of thinking. Now, people from Hitadu, they are more educated and they like better quality of life, whereas Kurdufuri, they like to remain in the same island and work. And mostly people from Kurdufuri, they are into fishing and these kind of jobs. Whereas Hitadu, they like to go for higher paying jobs and they like education, etc. Now, there could be a reason for, in Kurdufuri, the government has provided water tanks to collect rainwater. This was provided by the government somewhere around in the late 1990s. So most people, they have water tanks in their home and they collect water during the rainy season. And for other purposes, they use groundwater. Now, in Maldives, in the olden days, people, they use groundwater for all their purposes. Quite recently, we are getting, say, desalinated water from the sea. So in Kurudufushi, the groundwater they believe is still okay. But in Hitadu, the water is not usable anymore. So this could be a reason why the numbers are quite different from Hitadu and Kurudufushi. So in conclusion, I can say general public still thinks that schools are better in the Malay region. So that is one reason for migration. In some island schools, some of the subjects are not offered. Now we have got 2 universities in Malay offering a wide range of disciplines. And we have campuses in small islands, but not all the things are offered in the campuses. So that means if they want a proper tertiary education, they have to move to Malay. In the island, we have campuses offering only some disciplines, but not all. So I think that's all for me.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. We'll now begin the panel discussion session. I now ask Ms. Sakamoto to take over this session. Thank you very much. Dr. Maekawa will also be on the panel.
Let me
introduce to you our distinguished panelists. Mr. Ryo, Professor Ryo Fujikura, the Hosei University, focusing on the environmental impact of the development and also the migration, and also Professor Naonori Kusakabe of Rikkyo University, who is with us online. The Professor Kusakabe is the Associate Professor of the College of Intercultural Communication, focusing on the development cooperation. From Maldives, we have the Dr. Ahmed Shahab, the officer in residence of the UNDP in the Maldives. And we have Dr. Shehenaz, Dr. Khalid, Dr. Rahim, and also the Ms. Ahmed, and also the Mr. Aslam is with us. So first, Professor Fujikura, you have the floor. Thank you very much. My name is Fujikura. Thank you very much indeed for your very kind invitation to join with you today. Let me first express my deep respect to the government and the people of the Maldives, who have been working in the full strength for the climate change adaptation in order to fight the sea level rise and the storm surge. As has been introduced, in my study, I focus on the Marshall Islands in the South Pacific, which is a atoll island like the Maldives. There are other atoll islands in the South Pacific, that is Tubal and Kiribati. The per capita GDP of these 3 Pacific nations is $6,000 or less, whereas the per capita GDP of the Maldives is $12,000. So the Maldives economy is 2 times or larger than these Pacific, the atoll islands. So naturally, they have more options in adaptation measures. I only visited once the Hulhumalé in 2015, so I believe that the artificial island has changed significantly since then, as we have learned already through presentations. At that time already, we were able to see the beautifully developed areas. Hulhumalé is a man-made island with a large-scale land raising. Perhaps its impact on the marine environment may not be minimal, but I will not mention this now. I'm rather concerned about the fiscal sustainability of the construction project of Hulhumalé. According to the World Bank, in its report issued in 2022, it says, as you can see in this slide, Phase 2 beneficiaries of Hulhumalé pay $7,500 or 75,000 yen a month over a 25-year period. And rental default, defined as non-payment of 90 days and above of all social housing projects in both Hulhumalé Phase 1 and 2 are high, averaging at 37% across all projects. The government's exposure from external loans and the guarantees associated with the public housing is estimated at nearly $1 billion, or approximately 19% of GDP as of 2020. Most of these obligations were signed in 2017 and 2018 in the form of guarantees to HDC, leading to the external guaranteed debt ratio to jump by 12 percentage points of GDP in a single year. Combined, total external debt outstanding and the disbursed related to housing, including guarantees, amounting to an estimated $739 million at the end of 2021, equivalent to a third of total external public and publicly guaranteed debt. The bulk of this debt, 86%, is due to Chinese lenders, particularly the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. HDC accounts for over half of external guaranteed debt, but its projected revenues from rental payments on public housing projects are insufficient to cover the high cost of debt servicing, which is mostly due in the short and the medium term. In line with the social housing mandate, the government has also capped monthly rental rates for rent-to-own program beneficiaries, tolerated high delinquency rates on loan payments, and provided lengthy repayment periods up to 25 years. The cost of debt service is thus a major fiscal risk that will likely have to be borne by the public sector balance sheet. So HDC has a social responsibility of providing the high-quality housing in a stable manner to wider public. So perhaps it has the issue of how to sustainably and stably secure the finance and the funding. I'd like to know from the participants, the panelists, the outlook on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Professor Fujikura, now I'd like to ask Professor Kusakabe, can you hear me? Yes. I'd like to share a screen with you. On my part, in 2019, I visited Maldives and including Hulhumalé. And back then, was in the auspices of the JETRO Asia Economy Research Institute, and it's the study project is I was a part of, and we were interested in knowing how Maldives is trying to counter this challenge brought about by the climate change, and in fact, this is going to be the project that will determine the survival the people, in fact, that we are looking at with great interest. And on my part, the area of interest is the Myanmar, and therefore, or Bangladesh rather. You know, like Maldives, Bangladesh is also faced with the major impact of the climate change. And in fact, what is called the climate refugees, for instance, as is indicated in this picture, due to the soil erosion, people lost their land, and therefore where and how they migrate is the topic of my interest. This time it is not about the environmental refugees, but rather the refugees under the persecution and their political reasons. As you may know, right now, there are 1 million Rohingya refugees from Myanmar into Bangladesh, 1 million being about the 2 times the population of Maldives. And because of such rapid influx of people, the Bangladesh with the highest population density all of a sudden received the population that is about the 2 Maldives combined. And when this situation seems to persist, it resulted in various issues and problems, including the major environmental burden due to the lack of sufficient the sewage and water supply, and also the people in Bangladesh would find it quite unfair that the people from Myanmar are given aid when the people in Bangladesh are suffering from the unemployment and also lack of land. And now, because of various tensions and crises elsewhere, the aid from international community is also declining, and therefore, in the part of the host community, now they face the limit to receiving the refugees, and therefore we see the rising tension there. And right now, Bangladesh government, in an effort to find a solution to it, is now thinking of moving the refugees from Myanmar, the Rohingya refugees, into the uninhabited island. Right now, they are concentrating in the area with a population about 1 million, and this area indicated by red dot, that's the uninhabited, and right now it is called the Basanchar Island. As the name indicates, in fact, that this area was so unpopular, so that when it is inundated, the water level could be at the level of the knee or height of the knee, and that is why this island was abandoned as uninhabitable. But then the Bangladesh government decided to make a huge investment to make an embankment and construct facilities to accommodate 100,000 Rohingya refugees. As of now, about 30,000 people have moved to this area. As you see, this was a wetland to begin with, and therefore it was rather a fragile environment. But by way of reclamation and by embankment, it has been developed to the state that could be inhabited. Of course, there are pros and cons to this project. Unlike in the case of Hulhumalé, this is not about the voluntary migration, but rather the plan to move the refugees into this area, and therefore there are some harsh criticism. On the other hand, when we consider the population of refugees around the globe, it is increasing. In 2023, it is estimated that the refugees, that would be in the broad sense of the term, and therefore that includes those displaced within the same countries included. But the total number of populations of the refugees are said to have exceeded 110 million. And therefore, the UNHCR considers various solutions. One is to repatriate them, and the other is to integrate them into a host country. And the third solution, that could be the third country, whether it is Western countries or Japan or India, but anyway, to seek for resettlement in the third countries. But all those solutions are now facing a limit. That's where the global community is. For the time being, the refugees, for instance, in the case of Rohingya refugees, they are currently living in the refugee camp in Bangladesh. Without integration into Bangladesh society, there is no sign of hope for them to be back to their home country. Therefore, those refugees in large number are leading their life in an extremely unstable or vulnerable position. And in fact, such large number of people are living without being integrated into the host country, nor the hope of repatriation. And therefore, this project by Bangladesh to move those people into the island that was not inhabited before, well, this is not the best solution. Yet this could be some feasible solution. Of course, Basanchar, compared to Hulhumalé, the infrastructure is so poorly developed. But if the Hulhumalé project, where the human's destiny is at stake, if it succeeds, then not only climate change, as well as the more than 100 million refugees that are found around the globe, that could find the hope in this solution. Thank you very much, Professor Kusakabe.
お願いいたします。
Next, I'd like to turn to Mr. Ahmed Shafes.
Good afternoon. Can colleagues hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity for UNDP to speak at this gathering. It is an important conversation and part of our work as well on the sustainability and livability of Maldivian communities. And today I was invited to speak a little bit about what the UNDP was doing in the Maldives in terms of improving the overall climate change adaptation, mitigation, and resilience situation in the country. So maybe just to quickly cover the work of UNDP. UNDP in the Maldives has been around for around 45 years. So we've been supporting the country in its development trajectory from very early on. At present, the UNDP's work is focused on 5 central areas. That's improving governance and accountability, natural resources and climate resilience, providing basis for thriving livelihoods that benefit people and planet, and in doing so, bringing in innovation and digital transformation, while also making sure that whatever we do brings about gender equality. Maybe to sort of focus in on the work that I am currently looking at, which is on the overall resilience, environment, and climate change portfolio. And it covers a wide and diverse range of interventions that provide solutions, policy guidance, knowledge creation, and drive sustainable change. So I'll divide this into 4 areas: the work we do in climate change adaptation, work in climate change mitigation, disaster risk reduction, and environmental challenges, as well as cover a little bit of the cross-cutting themes. Perhaps that's demonstrated through the examples of some of the work that we do in climate change adaptation. Over the last 10 years, UNDP has been quite engaged in addressing the water shortages that are experienced in response to climate-induced extended dry periods. So in this regard, adaptive water management, programming, Most recently, we've installed water facilities, improved water production and storage facilities in 29 islands, as well as influencing the groundwater quality and looking at groundwater as a resource and how we can sustainably manage that through managed aquifer recharge principles, as well as emergency water distribution protocols, improving tariff models, and overall sort of modeling on rainwater, groundwater, and the entire sort of water resource envelope, and how to manage that within a community. We've also been looking at improving food security and food production through resource efficient, climate resilient practices. One key thing that we also link up with some of the colleagues around the table, we piloted an urban sort of farming initiative in HDC as a COVID response mechanism, but we're hoping that this is also something that could be taken up as an alternative means of farming and food production and food security in the country. We've also been working with the tourism sector in looking at adaptive tourism practices, very much linked to some of the key metrics that you've been discussing here, such as carrying capacity of islands, especially in guest house tourism, and how they can sort of be balanced with the natural resources, natural assets, as well as sort of livelihood opportunities for the communities. We've also been looking at nature-based solutions, such as flood mitigation, flood drainage, and shoreline protection, using nature-based solutions and methodologies. Moving on to climate change mitigation, we've been looking to mainstream renewable energy into all sort of sectors and drivers of the economy, and more recently, particularly into transport, agriculture, and tourism again. We've supported the government and the Ministry of Transport and then the Maldives Transport Company in piloting an EV bus route, an electric vehicle bus route in the Maldives, and we've supported the installation of the charging stations and the solar panels that are required to charge them. We're hoping that this is a model that can be scaled up and sort of replace the conventional transport. We've also been looking at agriculture sector, bringing in renewable energy back cold chain management in the agriculture so that farmers are able to sort of generate more income by sustaining their produce, as well as renewable energy integration into water production. As you know, reverse osmosis is an energy intensive process. So UNDP, several years ago pioneered solar powered renewable energy backed reverse osmosis water production systems and a few other sort of mechanisms that bring down the overall cost and reduce the burden on local and national governments. Pivoting to disaster risk reduction and our work in that field, our focus is on capacity building for national and local actors, for planning, first response, as well as sort of having the capacity and the tools that are needed for first response. In the context of the Maldives, where the main sort of hazards are hydrometeorological in nature and driven very much by the impacts of climate change, increasing frequency and intensity of storms, etc. There is a very close linkage between, the risk reduction stream and overall adaptation and mitigation. We've also been working with local council, the local government authority to improve planning systems and tools so that the local development plans that come up are risk informed and climate resilient. A few of the tools that we've been using is vulnerability capacity assessments that forms the basis for a disaster management plan that then gets integrated into the local development plan. We've also been working with the Ministry of Education, looking at how we can improve tsunami preparedness in schools, as well as, and lastly, I think this is the newest conversation, which is around loss and damage and the conversations that are happening at global COPs. throughout all of this, we are also balancing the environmental challenges that the country faces. So in this regard, UNDP has an extensive set of programs covering hazardous chemicals management and in compliance with international treaty obligations of the country, is supporting the government to phase out ozone-depleting substances. We're working with private sector, government, and state-owned enterprises on intercepting plastic and reducing the overall impact of plastic on the environment. And quite a bit of growing work on biodiversity and conservation to support the global biodiversity framework that has recently come. Particularly emphasis on protected area management, better financing for it, and conserving marine ecosystems, particularly coral. And finally, I think waste management is a big issue. So we do a lot of work in waste management, but for the most recent couple of years, we've also been focusing on waste in the health sector, particularly after COVID. And we'll be installing upgraded waste management facilities for healthcare in 18 islands in the coming year or so. Quickly pivoting to some of the cross-cutting areas that we work that sustain and enable the work that I just described. A key among them would be improving climate and environmental governance. So policy development on key issues, supporting extended producer responsibility, for example, in plastic, legislature and regulations on chemicals management, water regulation, water, etc. Nothing would be possible without financing, so that is a big focus for us, financing for climate and environment. In that regard, we've developed the first integrated national financing framework, which is a focus on climate and identifies the areas that are needed for investment. Here at UNDP, we believe that in a country such as the Maldives, a climate vulnerable country, all financing is effectively climate financing. We're also looking to pilot innovative financing instruments, bringing in blended financing in a debt-stressed economy. Public resources will not be sufficient to cover all the needs. So private sector engagement, investment is also being explored. And driving the economy in an environmentally sustainable way, we are also focusing on building entrepreneurship and SME culture in key sectors: tourism, agriculture, blue economy, marine resources are some of the work that we do. I'm just giving very overview highlights here. And again, throughout all of this, supporting grassroots actors, particularly women. We have a small grants program with over the last 10 years, there's been over 100 grants given, upwards of $4 million in various areas of climate change and environment, where communities themselves find solutions to their problems. And we're always on the lookout for innovation and new ways of doing things, particularly in the development space that UNDP occupies. So with that, over to the panel. Thank you so much for the opportunity again.
シファツさん、どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Mr. Shehenaz. Now I'd like to take questions from the floor. First, I'd like to share with you questions that we received online from online participants. First question is about artificial island and its impact to global and local, or rather national and local economy, and the data that quantifies the impact, whether such information is available or not. Let me respond to the question. In terms of macroeconomy as well as local economy, analysis hasn't gone that far, but as to the results as well as methodologies, I think they were introduced during the presentation. So I hope that that presentation answered your question. The next question about expansion of Hulhumalé and increasing energy demand as a result of the increasing inflow. The CRIP and the renewable energies, what is the current status as well as future outlook? For this, I'd like to ask either Aslam-san or Laila-san to respond to this question. So Aslam-san, please.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you very much. Yeah, first of all, thank you for the question. I think it's very important to highlight that energy efficiency is important as well. With the previous and also the current government, they are giving a lot of emphasis on the environment friendly as well as renewable energy. And currently we set a target like 30% of the energy should be renewable sources or environmentally sustainable methods. Likewise, at the moment we have few projects conducted in Hulhumalé as well. So like we have installed solar panels in some of the social housing where we are generating the good enough amount of energy, and we are redistributing it to the people who are in need. At the same time, we have developed our policies and procedures encouraging people to install their own their own energy sources like solar panels on their rooftop. And if they are going to develop their rooftop or enhancing with the solar panels, we are giving additional area for them to build up. So this is one of the incentive we are giving for the people, them to use that. Of course, in terms of the regulation, we need to bring a lot of changes also, because in a way, how to redistribute and resell those energy to the other party. Currently, only the state electric company in Maldives, we call it STECO, is only buying those energy sources. At the same time, but they have also launched a new project for the social housing projects as well as for the islands. They have introduced a renewable energy project. They can install on their houses and they can make the payment on installment basis. So this is also a good initiative for government for the people to build on their own renewable energy sources. In addition to that, I will also highlight some of the roads. We are replacing the existing electric lights with the solar lights. And for the new projects, we are also very much keen and interested to put the renewable energy places. Of course, you know the Maldives, we have like a 365 days, sunny days most of the time. Very rarely the rain is coming, so the solar will be one of them. Another one is like, of course, the tides through the water channels. We can create the renewable energy as well. So these two sources we are looking on to that.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. The next question, also about the reclamation of the Hulhumalé. So have you considered the possible erosion of the land due to the cutting of the coral reefs? Or perhaps Aslam-san, could you answer the question?
Yeah, that erosion again, I will highlight. In order to protect the reclamation, we also put 2 or 3 methods. One is that we put the sandbags, okay, so that we create sometimes, yes, this advantage of putting these sandbags. You can see in Hulhumalé, the east side we have put those we call sandbags. Because of that one, the natural sand normally deposit there, then it creates the natural beach. You can see in the east side. But in other area, of course, we put the stone, or stone, and we put the seed pile, and then put the jetty area. So those are the the ways we are putting in order to protect. Of course, in Maldives, we have noticed some islands when they put the reclamation or when they are doing the harbor projects. One area is depositing the sand, while others area is erosioning is happening. So even in Maldives is the nature also by some islands some area it will be deposited, other area it will be erosion happen, but naturally it again reverse back also. But due to that, we also take some precautionary measures on the reclamation projects in order to ensure that the islands are not eroded. In Hulhumalé, of course, we keep on maintaining, we have not faced much issues in the erosion at the moment.
ありがとうございました。それでは会場にいらっしゃる方からのご質問を。
Now I'd like to take questions from the floor. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and wait for the microphone.
はい、それではドクターボッツァートよろしくお願いいたします。
Dr. Botswat, please.
My name is Fabrizio Bozzato. I'm a senior research fellow here at the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Well, my is both an observation as a question. In the light of the presentation given by the distinguished speakers, maybe it is time to rethink and integrate the definition of an island, which is prevalent in the international law and jurisprudence, which is according to Article 121 of the United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea, a naturally formed area of land surrounded by water and above water at high tide. Well, it's not 1982 anymore, and rethinking of what is an island should be, is in order, I believe, primarily in the interest of the people living or that will live on those artificial islands and their island nations, but also because artificial island geopolitics is already at play. And I'm not referring to the South China Sea. I'll give you a short example, if I may, a few seconds. In 2018, the government of Tuvalu rejected an offer by China to build artificial islands there. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. Well, I'd like to ask the panelist or speaker from Maldives National University to respond to that. If you can respond to this question or the comment. Dr. Shehenaz.
Thank you very much for that question. That is, I think even in our population, among our people, we still have that same kind of thinking that an island is considered as the natural islands that we have. So that's why we are calling it an artificial island. Like you said, that's a concept we can think about in the academia as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Next, we'd like to take next question.
それではちょっと私の方からではお伺い。
If not, I'd like to ask a question. Somebody from Maldives National University, would you please respond? You talked about the education and the educational gap. As the university, what are you going to do, if any, in order to close the gap in terms of education between the Greater Malay area and outside of that area?
Thank you. Actually, we have, the government has provided for the secondary schooling in all the islands. So we have some form of a school, even if there are, say, 7 students in the island, we have a school there. But the problem is, because of the geographical dispersion, we can't have like A-level schools in all the islands. For example, in one of the islands, we have only 5 students, so they have to migrate or they just travel to the nearby island for their higher secondary education. I think we are also like encouraging the island schools to go for the higher secondary as well. But like I said, because of the geographical dispersion, it's not financially viable to have these higher secondary schools in all the islands. So in one sense, it's best to migrate even in the atolls to the bigger islands for the higher secondary education. And in terms of tertiary education, the government of Maldives has started giving free tertiary education for undergraduate programs, for first degree programs. So for all the Maldivians who joined the first degree at the Maldives National University or in any other institution, they will have the tuition fee free for the first degree program. So there are some measures being taken to mitigate this, but still, as you know, we have been quite centralized all these years, and most of the jobs and other facilities are located mostly in the Malay region, but there are some measures even now in other atolls underway to mitigate this. Did I answer your question?
どうもありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. Now, questions? Yes, Professor Fujikura, please. Thank you. Well, I only know about Marshall Islands. They're always suffering chronic water shortage, so that they collect rainwater on the rooftop. And also in Majalo, the capital, the water supply is available only for 3 hours. In the case of Hulhumalé, I understand that population density is rather high, and it could be higher in the future. What about the water supply? How are you securing the water supply there, or what is your plan for the future? Thank you. And then I'd like to ask the participants from HDC to respond.
さんが
Lahima-san? Lahima-san, please.
じゃあ、アスラムさん。
Or Aslam-san, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, regarding the water security, I think our colleague from UNDP also highlighted during certain time, not only Malé, some islands, they are run out of the clean water, so they have to supply the water, or they are also building the desalination plants. In Maldives, even in Hulhumalé, we have a separate company called state-owned enterprise. This MWSC, Maldives Water and Storage Company. So actually, HDC, we are not taking the responsibility of the water supply. However, we are ensuring all the necessary services are built. For example, when we are planning phase 1 and phase 3, now we are asking, can they have the capacity to supply that water? In Maldives, yes, in Malay region, 100% is covered by the pipeline we call desalinated water. So they don't have to have their own storage. Unlike in atolls, they have their own storage. And some islands, we are 100% providing desalinated water. And desalinated water, of course, we are producing from the sea water. We are using the desalinated water from the sea, so there is no restriction on that or supply, because it's 99.9% is the sea in Maldives, so we don't have any shortage on the sea, so desalination. So, but we are ensuring the new population, whenever there are a new population is moving, we ensure electricity, water, and sewer system is being built. So we also, closely working with the service providers, ensure the services are available. So like a phase 2 and phase 3 we are developing, and we are working with them and then ensure there's a provider. So I think so far we don't have any issues in the water, but in the last one instance I can remember, there was a disconnection of water in Malé, and then water crisis has happened, and with that it has. So this could be like that type of crisis, but other than that, we don't see huge challenges on the water supply.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Yes, in a previous survey, the people rated very high about utilities on Hulhumalé. Next question, please. Thank you very much. My name is Kato. I'm delighted to be here. I have several questions. My first is that some people have the intention to return to previous settlements. Some people want to remain. Well, in Japan, are there any used housing markets in Hulhumalé? And is that, if available, is that special or exceptional? And looks like you have skyscrapers on Hulhumalé. How many the floors do they usually have? In the Southeast Asia, before the building is complete, the right to own that the property can often be sold. And also, is there the possibility that such a selling and the purchasing of the right to live? And I think in Japan, usually all the interior or the is complete. But in China or in other countries, sometimes people purchase the properties, apartments, for example, before the internal the furnishings are complete. So thank you very much for your question. Do you mean that is there a market for the used houses? Thank you very much. So how about this question? Is there used are there used houses that are sold or purchased on Hulhumalé? Aslam-san?
Yeah, since I think I am the long person who have been served in the HDC in the past. Yes, of course, in terms of housing, we are currently also taking a housing market study with the help of World Bank. We are also like a question a little bit about the model. Okay, so then we are working with the housing market policy or housing market. Currently, what we are also, you have mentioned, currently there are a huge demand in Maldives for the housing. Before we complete, there are already the last information if we get the last time the government has opened for the flats as well as the land. 13,000 people have demanded for land. Okay, so more than 20,000 people have demanded for apartments. So which is like a 35,000 almost is there. The demand. Of course, people are demanding for the land, but however, because of the scarcity, we cannot provide the land for everybody. So that's why the apartments are coming. Initially, we have developed the apartments in the first phase for 3-story. So 4-story where there is no need of the lift. So we don't install the lift. It's only the 4-story building. However, with the new changes as well as the requirement is higher, because if we can build only 4-story less houses. So in the phase 2, the previous government they have planned 25-story buildings. 25-story buildings, and where there are like one building there are more than 400 people. So where we could, it was one of the largest supply, 7,000 housing. Also, Professor have highlighted, we have borrowed huge amount in order to house in development. Yes, of course, that's true. And these apartments, the 25-story building, and then we are facing a lot of issues. Also, like if there's no lift or lift and services, we have to provide. But again, we are currently developing almost completed 1,314 housing units, which is like a 12-story. 12-story buildings. There's a lift is also there. But in terms of requirement, I think a lot of people they need like a lift. Even if you build low-rise housing, there are disabled people, there are old people, they cannot climb through the stairs. So we need, lift. So that's one way. Even private parties, when we give the land, they can go up to a certain level. So we put some height restriction like 6 floors, but right now we are opening up them to develop up to 10 floor as well. So, but if you're going anything above than 5 floors, they have to put the install the lift. So that's the requirement. Then, as you said, the secondary housing, because in the Maldives, the housing demand is very high because the people, especially in Malay region, the demand is high. The rent is increasing day by day. So I cannot say there's a shortage at the moment. So, but again, the model which we are using is the Housing Development Corporation. Initially, there are no facility, or the banks are unable to provide the financing for the end users or the flat buyers. So what we have been also playing a role of bank. Okay, HDC, what we started is we are selling the houses, and then we are collecting installment basis over 20 to 25 years. So it's like a lease-to-own model when they are making the installments. At the end of the last installment, they will own the house. So some of them already they have owned those where we started in 2004. This is our 20th year. So some people, they have already owned those houses, so that they don't have to pay. Another model is like we are also providing mid and high-end housing where they are financially affordable and they can go into the banks and they can borrow. So the banks are also willing to provide end user financing for them. So this high-end or luxury housing, they normally go to the bank and take the financing and then they buy the houses. So these are the two main models. In case of we are giving the land, then they also depending on the banking sector to get the financing to development. So currently, yes, our current government also have a huge concern about that one. And at the moment, the previous government have allocated some lands where the main concern is how they are going to develop those houses. Of course, it is the one of the promise by the current government, the reasonable or affordable housing loans will be provided for them to develop the houses. So I think I have answered your question very broad level as well.
ありがとうございます。はい、そうしました。
Thank you. Earlier, Professor Fujikura read some questions. And that's about Hulhumalé, or more than that, in Greater Malay, whether the financial situation is sustainable or not. And that's another question that I'd like to ask for the answer from the people from HDC. Because we are pressed with time, hope that Aslam-san, you could give us a shorter, succinct answer to that. The financial sustainability.
It's my area as well. I've been working in finance last 17 years in HDC as well. So, of course, the financing, we are also borrowing for the housing, but at the same time, we are the largest asset-owned company, where we are having more than 2.5 billion of assets in our company balance sheet. Of course, according to the borrowing rate, we still fulfill the borrower's requirement, like DSR, we are also keeping more than 110%, where what is the requirement of the lenders. And of course, most of the borrowing has been done from the Chinese, and then it is done for the purpose of housing development. So that means at the same time, if you are increasing the borrowing or the loans, at the same time you are increasing the assets. Okay, so for example, 7,000, we have borrowed more than 400 million of USD. At the same time, the asset value is also going up. So it's like both sides of the balance sheet. Of course, when it comes to the national level borrowing, it is a huge concern. But we are also getting the sovereign. We have also highlighted this sovereign guaranteed loans, so the government support also we are getting most of the time. If in any case, if we are facing the difficulties, we are getting support from the government. So that's how it is. But in the future, I think Maldives is also a rich country where we can make a lot of other sources, thinking of other hybrid or like modern financing mechanisms in order to repay or make the financing scheme stronger.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you. Now then, at the end of this panel discussion, whether the experience in Maldives, whether that could be transplanted into other island countries. I'd like to ask your views and what Japan can do or what Japan should do. That's another question. So starting from Professor Fujikura, you're asking toward other island nations. I mentioned earlier that in the case of Maldives, the $12,000 being the GDP, Marshall Islands, that's $6,000, and Kiribati and Tuvalu, that's on the order of $1,000 to $2,000. So in terms of economic power, that's staggeringly different. So in the case of Maldives, even when there is a large size of borrowing from China, yes, the Maldives can afford to get a loan from China, but in the case of other countries that I mentioned, that's so hard for them. In the absence of financing, it will be hard for them to go about reclamation. One hope or possibility is with UN FCC discussion. That's about the loss and damage discussion. That is, right now we are seeing there's some movement toward the international fund to be created. If such fund is created, and then based upon the experience of Maldives, those island nations may be able to start the reclamation project. And in fact, the Green Climate Fund was used for reclamation project to be started in Tuvalu. It's in a very small scale. That is so different from the one in Hulhumalé, but that may be the way that the small island countries can think about and do. What Japan can do? Make a financial contribution to those international financial institutions and mechanisms. But of course, loss and damage is not just limited to small island countries. Coastal area of Bangladesh, the deluge or the flood in the Pakistan and so on. There are other areas that suffer those damages, and therefore, to what extent such scheme could be made available to small island countries, that would be important. Well, conventionally, Japan has been involved in dialogue and aid to Pacific Island nations. To Maldives, in terms of the ODA, I believe Japan is a #1 donor so far. That's about the ODA value that I'm talking about. So I hope that that would be evaluated by countries like Maldives, but even in a small scale, at least Japan can offer training, for instance. So I hope that such program be maintained or expanded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shehenaz, what does the United Nations do? What do you think the UN the organizations could do in terms of supporting other island nations?
Thank you for the question and thank you for the opportunity. I think as United Nations Development Program, UNDP operates in over 150 countries and territories, and there is a special group of small island developing states and a special focus given within the organization to provide scaled solutions, particularly targeted for small island developing states. So the sort of economies of scale, this sort of challenges that come up when we are dealing with smaller islands, there is common solutions. There are lessons that can be shared across UNDP's network, and we are doing that as well. Secondly, I think in terms of accessing climate financing, we heard in the room as well colleagues speaking about access to funding opportunities such as the Green Climate Fund, and UNDP has supported the Maldives to do that as well. The water project that I mentioned was supported through the GCF. At the same time, UNDP is also engaged with the government of Japan and the Embassy of Japan here in the Maldives. And we do have quite a number of extensive programming on the agriculture sector, as well as on the waste and healthcare waste management sector. So ODA can also be funneled through UNDP and other UN agencies towards this, helping small island states achieve sustainable development goals. So I'll leave it there. And once again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Now, Professor Kusakabe, Bangladesh, for instance, in South Asia, is currently being engaged in the artificial island development project. Do you think international support and aid is necessary to promote such a project there? Is that the question to me? I could not catch the first half of your question. Professor Kusakabe, you introduced the construction of artificial island in Bangladesh to accommodate refugees in other countries in South Asia as well. Do you think there is a need for international agencies or institution support for countries in South Asia for such projects? Well, South Asia is one of the areas that is most affected by the climate change. Pakistan, Bangladesh, by flood, and also India has experienced the series of cyclone damages in the past several years. As one solution to that, constructing artificial island is not yet seen besides Maldives yet. When population is growing in some of the countries, especially in South Asia, in those countries, how to accommodate those people and ensure security of the people and at the same time achieve the economic growth, whether it is in the form of island, that's a different question, but at least they might consider reclamation of the land on coastal area to offer the secure the area for people. At the same time, they are faced with the limited financing. You never know when natural disasters will hit them, and therefore, rather than natural disaster, people tend to focus more on the daily life. And in fact, the government also considers that those policies related to daily lives are more popular. Therefore, for those countries that are not seeing the urgency in this kind of challenge, besides Maldives, and like in the case of Maldives, they seem to place the priority, the lower priority, so to speak. Sorry, we are running out of time, and therefore, we'd like to conclude this program, the panel discussion. So I'd like to hand over the microphone back to Maekawa-san.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. This concludes the panel discussion. Please join me in expressing our deep appreciation to all the panelists. Thank you very much indeed for your participation for a long time. So I invite Dr. Nakayama again for a closing remark. But before that, let me share with you something that impressed me very strongly, as we have just heard during the panel discussion. Globally, as Professor Kusakabe said, globally speaking, for various reasons, many people were forced to migrate, numbering the more than 110 million. In fact, so there are many risks, and there are many problem concerning the persecution. We need to do everything we can in order to prevent these problems. We have learned from the experience of the Maldives. For example, in the mid and long term, we need to consider possible impact and take preventive measure. Until 2100, according to the prediction, sea level can rise by 50 centimeters. And based on that, they've decided to raise the land to 2 meters or the 3 meters with the reinforcement of sea walls and defense structures. And such the preventive measures are very important, and such the with foresightedness, the government can promote people to migrate while upgrading the quality of public services to residents. It's very interesting to see the uniqueness of this project that is a voluntary migration. So they are going to build a community, a new community. So perhaps the future challenge is how they can ensure the inclusiveness of the community. And environmental consideration is another factor, as well as the fiscal feasibility or sustainability for government. And the United Nations, in addition to the private funding, there are wider possibilities of accessing the public funding structures. Loss and damage fund has just been agreed to last year, a major milestone in the COP process, and the mitigation and adaptation cannot sometimes prevent the loss of the lives. So international community have to provide the ongoing the supports in order to prevent that, as has been agreed. So the migration and other adaptive measures have to be supported by the international community. And so with that in mind, we have been conducting and we will continue to conduct our research in order to monitor and see the effectiveness or the impact of such measures. So we are very pleased to have more than 100 participants online with the more than 30 people in the audience in this hall. Thank you very much indeed for your staying with us throughout this program. So, Dr. Nakayama of the GIF gives us a closing remark. Thank you very much indeed for your participation in this seminar today, despite your busy schedule. The Maldives is facing the existential threat from the sea level rise. The country has chosen to have the positive adaptive measures, that is the building of the artificial island, and that attracts global attention. We have learned today the example of the Hulhumalé, an artificial island, and we have been able to share the lessons and experience. In Hulhumalé, a new city is being built of the 400 hectares. This is a reclaimed land of the 2 meters of average the height from the sea level. And as we have learned today, they are aiming at building attractive living environment with while ensuring harmony between nature and urban life. We have been able to listen to the reports from experts from the various the perspectives about significance and issues of the Hulhumalé development and the possible application to other island nations in terms of economy, and social, and environment. And we have been able to learn in detail the Maldives, the climate change adaptation, and HDC's development leadership, as well as the result of the survey about the satisfaction and the environment, living environment of the migrants. And I'm sure that we have been able to obtain important insights into the possible climate adaptation measures from this unique example. We also have been able to have the various opinions from participants in the Q&A session. I'm sure that they will give us the important guide to not only Maldives but also to other small island nations facing the global issue of sea level rise. The following are the particularly important points that struck me. That is, the Maldives government very proactive measures like Hulhumalé and other development of artificial islands, and also the detailed analysis of the people migrated to Hulhumalé about their satisfaction in their life and also their intention to migration, and also how to secure the funding for such development projects, as well as the issues and possible solutions in order to strike a balance between environmental preservation and sustainable development. And lastly, the importance of international cooperation. These discussions are full of insights in the thinking about the climate change and migration, which will grow its importance from now on. I once again express my sincere appreciation to Sasakawa Peace Foundation and Hosei University for organizing today's seminar. And my heartfelt thanks to all the speakers and participants as well. I particularly appreciate the participation of the people from the Maldives National University and the HDC who have come all the way from the Maldives to Japan. Your important the insight and knowledge have been essential in success of this seminar. And I also express my appreciation to interpreters, simultaneous interpreters who have patiently translated today's discussions. Climate change is a common global issue for all of us. In order to address and overcome this issue, borderless cooperation is essential. I sincerely hope that today's seminar will contribute to that, and I sincerely hope that our relations between Maldives and Japan and cooperative relations between Japan and Maldives will further develop. Thank you very much indeed.
中山先生ありがとうございました。では以上で本日
Thank you very much, Dr. Nakayama. This concludes all the program for the day. I'd like to thank all of you once again for your participation.